Wow, Rainy River. You ever been fishing up there? I have not been fishing on the Rainy River. I am not that guy. I wish I were up there. Beautiful big Rainy River. Notice, on the one side is Canada, on the other shore would be the United States. I'm not sure which way he's facing there, but it's the border between Minnesota and Canada. Rainy River starts at Rainy Lake, flows up toward Lake of the Woods, and let's see what this guy actually caught. So that's what it was, a lake sturgeon. Beautiful big fish. Well, it's kind of ugly actually, but can you imagine? It's 67 inches, over 5.5 feet long, and 28-inch girth, which is it's the circumference around its waist. So a lot of fish. Now, what we're doing today, we'll be looking at a few more rivers. Rainy River was one of them, and we'll be adding some lakes to what we talked about last week. Let's start with adding Lake of the Woods.
On a map, it looks as if someone put a substantial part of Minnesota in Canada by mistake. In fact, it was a mistake, made in 1783 during the Treaty of Paris. The border, being drawn between the U.S. and then Britain, was supposed to cut through Lake of the Woods at a northwest angle, hence the name. Problem was, the map the Founding Fathers used of Lake of the Woods was completely wrong. The lake actually looks like this. They were way off, but that weird boundary bump stuck.
So if you're ever that person that has to create the boundary between one country and another, make sure you use a good map. And if you ever take that 5.5-hour drive north to go fishing, to go watch hockey, whatever you're going to do up there, look around because you never know who you're going to see. Here's our very own Mr. Thiel and his wife enjoying the shores of Lake of the Woods. Lake of the Woods, it's a great place to go camping, hiking, fishing. Just get out and enjoy some good fresh air. Remember, if you're to draw Minnesota, you have that little bump up on top, the northwest angle, and most of our boundaries are bordered by rivers and lakes. That's why we have this unique shape. So I do challenge you, and if you want to accept this challenge, to take out a blank sheet of paper, and after this lesson, you can try to draw Minnesota by memory to see how you can actually get Minnesota to look like Minnesota, and what rivers you remember, and what the rivers look like, and what they're named, and the lakes. Just give it a shot. Let's take a look. I'm going to start by putting some lakes up here, and then I'll stop at a moment, filling them in blue. So here we have some lakes, and I'm even putting in this one river right here because that's where that guy was catching that fish, that lake sturgeon right here. So here's Rainy Lake. The Rainy River flows this way, and it empties out into Lake of the Woods. And then we also learned why we have that weird looking little shape up there, that northwest angle, that bump on top of Minnesota. But did you know why we have the bump on the left side of Minnesota? Those are actually two lakes. The one on the top is Lake Traverse, and everything from Lake Traverse northward flows up north, goes all the way up to Hudson Bay. And then here's Big Stone Lake, the bottom part of that bump, and everything from there flows south down through the Minnesota River, and eventually that joins up with the Mississippi River and goes south. And then we have the Red Lake. Red Lake, the largest inland lake in Minnesota when you put together the upper and lower Red Lake. Red Lake is right here. It is just south of Lake of the Woods. And the Red Lake Nation, Band of Ojibwe, they work hand in hand with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources to control the walleye population in Red Lake so it doesn't become overfished, or when it gets a little bit low to try to bring it back again. Because Red Lake is shared by the Red Lake Sovereign Nation, that they can do some fishing rights there. We'll talk about that later this year. And other sportsmen, other fishermen will come in from Minnesota, and the lake is, especially Upper Red Lake, is shared with that as well. And then you have Mille Lacs Lake. Mille Lacs, it's the number 2 largest lake in the state of Minnesota, inland size. Remember, we cannot count Lake of the Woods, Lake Superior, anything along the borders like that. But Red Lake is number 1, all interior. Mille Lacs is number 2. It's really well known for its walleye and resorts along the lake. People just drive a little bit north of here. So many people go ice fishing up there. The Red River serves as the border between Minnesota and much of North Dakota. And why do we sometimes call it the Red River of the North? Well, because there's a Red River of the South. That one's down there between Texas and Oklahoma, Arkansas area. Just north of Traverse Lake on the west side of Minnesota is a short little river called the Bois de Sioux. Bois de Sioux. It's a short little river there, and that's where the Ottertail River comes on in and joins, and at that point it becomes the Red River of the North. And it flows north all the way up to Lake Winnipeg up in Manitoba. The Red River was really well known to the Native American travelers and the fur traders as well. So if you've ever visited Moorhead, Minnesota, and then crossed that river going into Fargo, that's the Red River of the North. Now, last week when you were doing a drag and drop and you were putting the Red River on the correct river, a number of you, understandably, could not see where Red River was written in the dark green on that assignment. And so you put it on this river right here, because the name of this river you could see, and it was called the Red Lake River. Now, the Red Lake River is different than the Red River of the North. The Red Lake River comes out of Red Lake, and it flows this way, and it empties out into the Red River of the North. Then the next river we're going to draw would be that question mark that goes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. Starts up here in Lake Itasca, goes up through Bemidji, and then goes all the way down. There it goes. It's a lot of water. So when you're drawing the map and you're drawing that river that looks like a question mark on top, and then eventually it becomes the border between Minnesota and Wisconsin, going all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, the Mississippi River starts up at Lake Itasca. And some of you get that mixed up with the city of Bemidji up there. So Lake Itasca is right here. If you've ever gone to the headwaters, it's very common to go walking across these rocks that they put out there for people to have a nice little photo op and say, hey, I walked across the Mississippi. This is my family years and years ago, my 4 daughters and my wife. But if you've never been there and you want to go there someday, it's the Mississippi River, folks. It's been there for a long time, and it's going to be there for a long time to come. So when you get your driver's license and you have permission, scoot on up there and see if you can walk across the Mississippi River. So Lake Itasca is where the Mississippi River begins. It's the headwaters of the Mississippi. And everybody talks about that because the Mississippi is the granddaddy of the rivers out there. But the first city that is on the Mississippi is Bemidji. The name Bemidji comes from a word in the Ojibwe language that means the lake with crossing waters, which just simply means the Mississippi River enters this lake at one spot and then it goes out of it at another. So the Mississippi crosses through this lake and out. And then over here, starting in Wisconsin, will be the St. Croix River. It looks like St. Croix when you spell it, but you pronounce it St. Croix. And that comes out of Wisconsin, and all that water empties out of the Mississippi. And then the water that connects Mille Lacs Lake with the Mississippi is called the Rum River. So the Rum River comes all the way down and it joins up with the Mississippi right here in the Anoka-Champlin area. And it's a beautiful little park. You can see right when you get on the point there, you can see where the Rum River, this is a winter scene or a spring scene. You can see the Rum River coming on in, joining up with the Mississippi. They have some areas there to overlook the water. And of course, in the fall, everything is beautiful anyway. So there you go. It's fun to be in an area like this where you have so much history and you have the nice rivers coming on in. And the Native Americans loved this area here because they could see who was going up and down both of the rivers. It was for their own protection. It also allowed them to go ahead and use these as their highways. Remember, before cars and roads, these rivers and lakes, it was our highway system here in Minnesota. And as we study later on this trimester, we're going to see really how important that was. All right, I'm going to leave you with a quick little review, a little scroll down of locations that you must know, and the other locations and stories are just kind of nice to know. Open up step 3, complete that form, submit it, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye. Lake of the Woods, Rainy Lake, Traverse, and Big Stone. You have the North Shore and Lake Superior. You have Red Lake, upper and lower, and you have Mille Lacs. Then with some rivers, Rainy, and you got Pigeon, and you have the Red River of the North, the Red Lake River, the Mississippi River, the St. Croix River, the Rum River, and the Minnesota River, followed by some of the other political boundaries drawn in.